What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we're going to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers here, my early thoughts on this team, and if I think they will be better or worse in 2024. Let's look back last season, of course, 9-4, pretty good season. A little bit of a step back from where they were in 2022. They were third in the SEC East. Part of that had to do with the schedule, and Missouri was so much better this year. But looking ahead to this next season, we're going to start with the offensive side. I think they make an upgrade at quarterback. Honestly, going from Milton to Nico, I think is an upgrade. Obviously, a much higher ceiling. We saw what he could do in the bowl game against a really good Iowa defense. I mean, they have a chance to be special at that quarterback position this season, not just solid. Nothing against Joe Milton. He was solid for them, but not special and not as good as Hendon Hooker. They have a chance to get back to, I think, to that level of quarterback play. And, you lose Jabari Small, Jalen Wright. Those are two really good running backs. But with Dylan Sampson and Cameron Seldon back there, I think they're going to be just fine at running back. So I look at that running back group as a group that can be very good. And they're going to be running behind a very experienced, talented offensive line. That might be the strength of this team. They're going to be really good up front. They really only lost Gerald Mincey to the transfer portal. That's their only significant loss up front. And they added in a former five-star from LSU and Hurd. So the offensive line should be really, really good for them. And then you go back to the wide receivers. Ramel Keaton, he was gone. Exhausted his eligibility, but they have Squirrel White coming back, obviously. He's a big-time player for them. Brew McCoy returns from injury. Dante Thornton will return from injury. So those guys will definitely help out. They need to stay healthy. They're not going to be super deep at wide receiver, but they're going to have some really talented players. You look at the transfer portal, also Chris Brazzell, a wide receiver from Tulane, him coming in there. That's going to help them out a lot. This is a talented player, and I think he can play at this level. So I think the wide receivers look really good. Running backs look really good. Upgrade at quarterback, really good. Maybe elite offensive line. Not much to complain about on the offensive side. They do lose Castles at tight end and Jacob Warren, so your top two tight ends will be gone. Those are big losses, but I think they'll be okay. They did add Holden Stays, a tight end from Notre Dame, who has a chance to be really good for them. And so I think they'll be okay at tight end. Also added a tight end from Alabama. Don't really know much about him. I don't think he's really played much, but adding some depth there at least. So I think offensively, it's a no-brainer. This team's going to be better, and they have a chance to be 2022 good, in my opinion, maybe even better than that. Again, I think they're going to be very good at running the football, this offensive line, these backs that they have, and very good in the passing game as well. So Tennessee, again, they have a chance to get back to where they were in 2022, being one of the elite top offenses in the country. Maybe, kind of like LSU did last year. So I'm looking at the ball as being very good on that side of the ball. But what about defense? Now, this team did make some significant improvement on defense this past year. I think they were 32nd in the country in total defense, top 20 against the run. Pass defense wasn't quite as good, but it's a lot better than where they were in 2022. And you look at the defense heading into this year, there are some question marks. So we'll start up front. They should be pretty good on the defensive line. Roman Harrison, he will be gone. Tyler Barron, that's a pretty big loss. He went into the transfer portal. But they've still got some pretty talented players there up front. James Pierce, who has a chance to be one of the best defensive linemen maybe in the country. And so you've got him back, and some other players in there. In the middle of that defensive line, Amari Thomas will be back. That's big for them. So, again, defensive line doesn't really lose much. I think they're going to be very strong up front, and it all starts right there. And that in today's world of college football and just football in general, the defensive line is really the most important part of the defense. Because if you can't get to the quarterback, you can't get a pass rush, you're going to be in trouble. So they should be pretty good there. Looking at the linebacker spot, Aaron Beasley's gone. That is a big loss. They have Elijah Herring coming back. That's good news. Who's going to step up and be that number two linebacker for them? Maybe it's an Arian Carter. We'll see. But they're going to need someone to step up there at linebacker. They've got some young players on the roster, and it's just a matter of we'll see what happens there. And then you look at the secondary. Now, this is where I'm concerned about this team, especially at the cornerback position. Brandon Turnage, Warren Burrell, Nico Slaughter, those guys all entered the transfer portal. Kamal Haddon, he's gone. D. Williams is gone. Gabe Judy Lawley is gone. So you're talking about almost every cornerback that played last year is gone. That is a huge, huge concern. And then you go to the safety position. Wesley Walker entered the transfer portal. That's a tough loss for them. Deshaun Rucker went in the transfer portal. Jalen McCullough, he's gone. Maybe their best safety from this past season. Tamari McDonald is gone. So this secondary really has been gutted, honestly. I mean, it's a major concern. They weren't great. This was the weakness of their defense. Again, I think they were ranked in the 60s in pass defense. So this was not the strength of the team. And sometimes you can say, well, if they weren't great, we didn't need them anyways. We'll bring in some new players. But I don't really see that happening. They added a couple of corners and a safety in the transfer portal, but these were not significant players that I see being huge difference makers. So I think this is a major concern, and as good as their run defense might be and as good as they might be in the front seven, the secondary is going to be significantly worse, and they let's just be honest here, they could be bad. So I think defensively they're going to be a little bit worse. Again, against the run up front, they can be as good, I think, but the pass defense definitely is going to be worse unless some of these young players, the players they bring in, can really help them out. And there is still time in the transfer portal. Maybe after spring they're able to go out and get some big time players in the secondary. Maybe some of these players that are in the transfer portal that have not committed to new schools, maybe they decide to come back. So it's early, and again, these videos, they're called early thoughts because we have a long ways to go before the season starts. But right now I'm going to say defensively they look like they're going to be a little bit worse. But overall, this team, because they do have guys coming back in the front seven, and I don't think the defense is going to be that much worse because of that. Maybe the pass defense is a lot worse, but overall defensively I think they're not going to be that much worse. I think the chance for them to be really, really good and much improved on offense, a much higher ceiling on offense, means that this team, I think, is going to be better. I think Tennessee will be better overall, despite the questions in the secondary. This is in my opinion, this is a playoff contender. Tennessee is a playoff contender. Now, if there was a 14 playoff, they would be a dark horse and not probably a serious contender. But in a 12-team playoff, Tennessee is a real contender. And so watch out for the Vols. They're a team that, if Alabama is not as good as they've been without Nick Saban, and maybe Missouri drops off, maybe Oklahoma and Texas don't do as well as we thought in the SEC, Tennessee could maybe make a run at that 12-team playoff. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But overall, I do think this team will be better in 2024. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Give me your thoughts on the Vols down in the comments below.